I gave everything to that house. 43 years of marriage, and when my husband died, I thought our son would honor that. Instead, 3 years later, my daughter-in-law tossed a faded canvas bag at my feet and told me to get out. I was 68 years old, standing in the driveway of what used to be my home, holding what she called my junk. When I finally opened that bag in my sister's spare bedroom, my hands wouldn't stop shaking. Inside was a letter in my granddaughter's handwriting and a stack of papers that would change everything. But let me start from the beginning. My name is Margaret Ann Porter, and until that Tuesday in October, I believed I was exactly what my daughter-in-law said I was, a burden. After my husband Robert died of a heart attack in our kitchen, our son Michael insisted I move in with him and his wife Jessica in Cincinnati. They had the space, he said. They wanted to take care of me, he said. I sold the house Robert and I had bought in 1982, the house where we raised Michael, where we celebrated every Christmas, where Robert taught our son to ride a bike in the driveway. I sold it for $420,000 and gave Michael $300,000 to help with his mortgage and his daughter Emily's future college fund. I kept $120,000 in a savings account, just in case. That was my first mistake. The second was believing that family meant something to everyone. For 3 years, I lived in their finished basement in the Oakley neighborhood. I cooked dinner 6 nights a week. I did the grocery shopping every Thursday with my own money because Jessica said their budget was tight. I picked up Emily from school when she had volleyball practice. I cleaned the house every Monday and Friday. I paid for my own food, my own medication, my own everything. I tried to be invisible, quiet, grateful. Jessica made sure I knew I wasn't grateful enough. It started small. Comments about how I loaded the dishwasher wrong, how I folded towels incorrectly, how I bought the wrong brand of milk. Then it escalated. She started eating meals in her room, saying she couldn't stand the way I chewed. She told Michael I was getting forgetful, that I left the stove on twice, which was a lie. She convinced him I needed to be watched, like I was a child. Michael, my son, the boy I raised, believed her. Last month, everything came to a head. I was doing laundry in the basement when I heard them arguing upstairs. Their voices carried through the vents. "We need that room for the home gym I want," Jessica said. "Your mother has been here 3 years. That's long enough. There are very nice senior communities in the area." "I don't know, Jess," Michael said, but his voice was weak. It was always weak with her. "She's lived her life, Michael. We're still living ours. Emily's going to college in 2 years. We need to think about us now." I stood there, holding a laundry basket, listening to my son agree to put his mother in a facility. He didn't argue hard. He didn't say no. He just asked which ones had good reviews. That night at dinner, he couldn't look at me. Jessica smiled. 2 weeks later, on a Tuesday morning, Michael came down to the basement while I was making my bed. He stood in the doorway, hands in his pockets, looking at the floor. "Mom, we need to talk." I sat down on the bed. I already knew. Jessica and I have been talking, and we think it might be time for you to explore other living arrangements. We found a really nice place, Riverside Senior Living. It has activities, a dining hall, nurses on staff. You want me to leave? It's not that we want you to leave. It's just that the house is feeling cramped, and we think you'd be happier somewhere with people your own age. People my own age. As if I was so old and useless I needed to be warehoused. "When?" I asked. "End of the month. We've already put down a deposit." 3 weeks. They were giving me 3 weeks. "Did you use my money for the deposit?" He looked uncomfortable. "We'll sort out the finances. The important thing is that you'll be taken care of." I wanted to scream. I wanted to remind him that I took care of him for 18 years, that I sat up with him when he had nightmares, that I worked 2 jobs to pay for his college because Robert's salary alone wasn't enough. I wanted to tell him that I gave him $300,000, that I gave up my home, that I gave him everything. Instead, I said, "Okay." Because that's what you do when you're 68 and you have nowhere else to go. You say, "Okay." The next 3 weeks were hell. Jessica started packing up my things without asking, throwing away photos she deemed duplicates, donating clothes she said I didn't need. She moved through my space like a conqueror, claiming territory. Michael avoided me entirely, leaving for work early and coming home late. Only Emily tried to help. My granddaughter, 16 years old with her father's eyes and her grandmother's stubbornness, would sneak down to the basement when her parents weren't looking. "Grandma, this isn't right," she whispered one evening, sitting on my bed while I folded clothes. "It's their house, sweetheart. But you gave them money. You take care of everything. Adults make complicated decisions." She looked at me with tears in her eyes. "I don't want you to go." I hugged her. "I'll visit. We'll still see each other." She pulled back and looked at me intensely. "Grandma, I need to tell you something. About Grandpa." "Emily, dinner!" Jessica's voice cut through from upstairs. Emily jumped up. "I'll come back," she promised. But she didn't get the chance. The next day was moving day. I woke up at 6 in the morning on October 24th. My sister Linda had driven from Louisville the night before to help me move. She was staying at a hotel because Jessica said there wasn't room. Linda was 65, a retired accountant, and she'd been furious when I told her what was happening. "You gave them $300,000 and they're putting you in a home?" she'd said on the phone. "Margaret, you could have bought yourself a condo." But it was done. The deposit was paid. My things were in boxes. Michael left for work before I woke up. Coward. Jessica, however, was very much present. She stood in the kitchen drinking coffee while Linda and I carried boxes up from the basement. She didn't offer to help. She watched. At 10 o'clock, we had everything in Linda's SUV except for one last box. I went back down to do a final check of the basement room. It looked empty, sterile, like I'd never been there. 3 years erased in 3 weeks. When I came back upstairs, Jessica was holding a faded green canvas bag I'd never seen before. "You forgot this," she said, her voice dripping with disdain. "It was in the back of your closet." I didn't remember putting any bag in the closet. That's not mine. "Well, it was in your space, so it's your problem now." She thrust it at me. "Take your junk and go." I took the bag. It was heavier than it looked. Linda appeared in the doorway. "That's enough, Jessica. We're leaving." Jessica smiled. Actually smiled. "The room will make a perfect yoga studio. I'm thinking soft grays, maybe some plants." Something in me broke. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just a quiet snap, like a thread pulled too tight. I walked out of that house without saying goodbye. Linda drove us to her hotel in silence. She'd taken the week off work to help me settle into Riverside. We sat in her room, Chinese takeout between us, and I couldn't eat. "I can't believe Michael did this," Linda said, stabbing at her low mane. "Robert would be ashamed." At the mention of Robert's name, I started crying. Deep, body-shaking sobs that I'd been holding in for 3 weeks. Linda held me while I fell apart. "You're coming to Louisville with me," she decided. "You're not going to that senior home. You'll stay with me until we figure this out." "Linda, I can't impose." "You're not imposing. You're my sister. That's what family actually means." That night, I couldn't sleep. At 2 in the morning, I remembered the green canvas bag. I'd left it in the corner of the hotel room. I got up, turned on the lamp, and brought it to the bed. It was old, the fabric worn soft. There was no tag, no identifying marks. I unzipped it slowly. Inside was a manila envelope, thick with papers. On top was a letter, handwritten in Emily's teenage scrawl. "Dear Grandma," it began. My hand started shaking. "I'm sorry I couldn't give this to you in person. Mom watches me like a hawk, and I knew if she found out, she'd destroy everything. Grandpa made me promise to give this to you if something ever happened to him and if Dad wasn't taking care of you properly. He said I'd know when the time was right. I think this is the time. Grandpa loved you so much. Before he died, he came to my school and took me out for ice cream. I was 13. He told me that he wanted to make sure you'd always be okay, no matter what. He said he didn't trust Dad to be strong enough to stand up for you if he had to choose between you and Jessica. He said he knew his own son, and he knew the kind of woman Jessica was. So he did something, and he made me promise not to tell anyone, not even you, until you needed it. Inside this envelope are papers Grandpa left with his lawyer, Mr. Patterson. The lawyer gave them to me last year when I turned 16. There's a letter from Grandpa to you, and there are documents, important documents. Grandma, you don't have to go to that home. You don't have to depend on Dad. Grandpa made sure of it. I love you. I'll call you as soon as I can get away from Mom. Your granddaughter, Emily. My vision blurred. I set Emily's letter aside and picked up the manila envelope. My name was written on it in Robert's handwriting. Inside was another letter, dated 3 weeks before Robert died. My dearest Margaret, it read, and I could hear his voice. If you're reading this, I'm gone, and something has gone wrong. I hoped you'd never need this. I hoped Michael would take care of you the way you took care of him, the way you took care of all of us. But I'm a realist, and I know my son. I know he's weak when it comes to that woman he married. I tried to tell him, but love makes fools of us all. So I made arrangements. Do you remember my Uncle Frank who died in 2005? He left me some property in Columbus that I never told you about because I wanted it to be a surprise for our retirement. It was a small apartment building, 4 units. I hired a property manager to handle it. The rental income went into a separate account I opened in both our names. I was going to tell you on our 50th anniversary. I had this whole plan, but my heart had other ideas. Margaret, that building is still there. It's still generating income. The property manager, a good woman named Teresa Valdez, has been depositing the rent into that account for 18 years. The account is at Fifth Third Bank, account number 4728934121156. There's a debit card and checkbook in this envelope. As of my last check, there was over $400,000 in that account. The building itself is worth approximately $600,000. All of it is in your name now. I transferred everything to you 6 months before I died. You are not dependent on Michael. You are not dependent on anyone. You are a property owner, Margaret. You are a wealthy woman. There's also my life insurance policy. The one Michael knows about was for $100,000, but I had a second policy, a bigger one, that pays out to you directly, $750,000. The paperwork is in here. It should have been paid out already, but I made arrangements with my lawyer to hold it in trust until Emily turned 16 and could make sure you received it properly. I didn't trust Michael or Jessica not to manipulate you into giving it to them. Mr. Patterson's number is on his card in the envelope. Call him. He'll help you access everything. You gave me 43 beautiful years, Margaret. Let me give you your freedom. All my love, always. Robert. I read the letter 3 times. Then I dumped out the rest of the envelope. Property deed for 847 Summit Street, Columbus, Ohio, 4-unit apartment building. Owner, Margaret Ann Porter. Bank statements from Fifth Third Bank. Current balance, $427,812. Life insurance policy from Prudential. Beneficiary, Margaret Ann Porter. Amount, $750,000. Status, paid and held in trust. Contact attorney Gerald Patterson for release of funds. Business card, Gerald Patterson, attorney at law, downtown Cincinnati. Debit card in my name, checkbook with my name printed on it. I sat there in that hotel room at 3 a.m, surrounded by papers that proved my husband loved me enough to protect me even after death, and I cried again. But this time they weren't tears of grief or despair. They were tears of rage. I had spent 3 years being treated like a burden, like a charity case, like I should be grateful for scraps, when I had over $1 million in assets that were mine, that Robert had left for me, that he'd hidden to protect me from exactly what had happened. Linda woke up to find me sitting on the floor, papers spread around me, laughing and crying at the same time. Margaret? What in the world? I handed her Robert's letter. She read it. Then she read it again. Then she looked at me and said, "That magnificent bastard." At 9 o'clock that morning, we called Gerald Patterson. His secretary put us through immediately. "Mrs. Porter," he said, and his voice was warm. "I've been hoping you'd call. Emily contacted me last week to let me know the situation. I'm so sorry for what you've been through. Robert would be heartbroken. I need to access the insurance money," I said, "and I need to understand the property situation." "Of course. Can you come to my office today? I have everything ready for you." We were there by 11. Gerald Patterson was 70 years old, silver-haired, and sharp as a tack. He'd been Robert's friend since college. He spread papers across his conference table and walked me through everything. The life insurance money was in an interest-bearing trust account. With interest, it had grown to $793,000. The rental property had been professionally managed for 18 years. Current market value, $675,000. All units occupied, generating $4,200 per month in rental income. The Fifth Third bank account had grown through rental deposits and interest. Current balance, $427,812. My savings account from selling the house, $120,000. Total assets, over $2 million. I was a millionaire. Robert set this up very carefully, Gerald explained. He didn't want Michael to know because he was afraid Jessica would manipulate the situation. He trusted Emily to know when to give you this information. He trusted me to protect it, and he trusted you to use it wisely. I sat there, stunned. I gave Michael $300,000. I know. Robert worried about that. He tried to talk you out of it before he died, didn't he? I remembered. Robert had said, "Margaret, keep that money. Michael's a grown man." But I hadn't listened. I thought I was helping my son. What do I do now? I asked. Gerald smiled. Whatever you want. You're a wealthy, independent woman. The world is yours. I thought about it for exactly 10 seconds. I want an apartment. Not in Cincinnati. Somewhere close enough to see Emily, but far enough that I never have to run into my son. I want to manage my rental property myself. And I want to make sure Jessica and Michael never see a penny of my money again. Gerald nodded. I can help with all of that. Within 2 weeks, I had moved into a beautiful 2-bedroom apartment in Columbus, 45 minutes from Cincinnati. It was in a newer building in the Short North District, with a balcony overlooking a tree-lined street. The rent was $2,000 a month, which I could easily afford from my rental income alone. I met with Teresa Valdez, my property manager. She was 52, efficient, and had been running my building flawlessly for nearly 2 decades. We had coffee, and I told her I wanted to be more involved. "Mrs. Porter, I'm so glad," she said. "Your husband was a good man, and this building has been my pride and joy. I'd love to teach you everything." I learned about property management, about tenant relations, about maintenance schedules. I learned about profit margins and tax deductions. I learned that I was good at it. I also started therapy. A nice woman named Dr. Chen who specialized in family trauma. She helped me understand that I wasn't a burden, that I'd been emotionally abused, that I had the right to be angry. And I was angry. For 3 months, I didn't contact Michael. I didn't reach out. I built my new life brick by brick, and I didn't look back. Emily and I texted constantly. She was careful, always deleting our conversations, but she kept me updated. Jessica had indeed turned my basement room into a yoga studio. Michael had gotten a promotion at work. They'd taken a vacation to Cancun. "They think you're at Riverside," Emily texted. "Mom's been telling people how sad it is that you had to go to a home. The audacity." In December, Emily asked if she could visit for Christmas. I told them I'm staying at a friend's house. "Please, Grandma. I miss you." She came on Christmas Eve and stayed through the 26th. We decorated my apartment, baked cookies, watched movies. She told me about school, about volleyball, about the boy she liked. She was thriving despite her toxic home environment. On Christmas night, curled up on my couch, she asked, "When are you going to tell Dad?" "Tell him what? That you're okay, that you have money, that Grandpa made sure you'd never need them." I thought about it. "I don't know if I will. They don't deserve to know you're happy." Smart girl. But fate had other plans. In February, my phone rang. It was Michael. I hadn't spoken to him since October. "Mom?" His voice was strained. "Michael, we need to talk. Can I come see you at Riverside?" "I'm not at Riverside." Silence. "What? Where are you?" "I'm in Columbus. I have my own apartment." "How? Did Linda pay for it?" "No, Michael. I paid for it. With my money." "What money?" "Mom, you gave us everything." I smiled, even though he couldn't see it. "No, I didn't. I gave you what I chose to give you. The rest was mine." "I don't understand." "Your father made sure I'd be taken care of, Michael. He didn't trust you to do it. He was right." I could hear him breathing. "Mom, I know things got bad with Jessica. I'm sorry about how we handled it. But you have to understand, we were stressed, and the house was small, and debris. Michael, why are you calling? Another pause. We're in trouble. Jessica lost her job in December. My company is downsizing. We might lose the house, I was hoping. I was wondering if you could help us, financially, just temporarily. There it was. They needed money, so suddenly I was worth calling. How much? I asked, my voice ice cold. Maybe 50,000? Just to get us through until Jessica finds something new. I laughed. Actually laughed. No. Mom, please. We're desperate. You're family. I was family when you kicked me out. I was family when Jessica called my belongings junk. I was family when you put me in a basement and treated me like hired help for 3 years. That's not fair. We let you live with us. You let me pay rent, buy groceries, cook your meals, clean your house, and raise your daughter while you treated me like I was invisible. You took $300,000 from me and used it for your house and your lives. And the moment Jessica wanted that space for her yoga studio, you threw me away. What do you want me to say? I'm sorry. I made a mistake. I want you to understand something, Michael. Your father loved you. I loved you. We gave you everything, including money we could have used for ourselves. And you repaid that by showing me who you really are. You're weak. You're selfish. And you chose your wife's convenience over your mother's well-being. Mom, I'm done, Michael. I have a life now, a good life. I have friends. I have my property. I have my independence. And I have Emily, when she's ready to leave that house. What I don't have is a son who respects me. So you're just going to let us lose everything? You didn't seem to care when you thought I had nothing. Why should I care now? I hung up. I sat there for a long moment, and then I called Dr. Chen. She talked me through the guilt, the anger, the sadness. She reminded me that boundaries were healthy, that I didn't owe anyone my financial security, especially not people who had abused my generosity. 2 days later, Jessica called. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Margaret, I know Michael talked to you. Look, I know we didn't end things well, but you have to help us. We have Emily to think about. She needs stability. You wouldn't want her to suffer because of pride, would you? Call me back. Using Emily as leverage. Of course, I didn't call back. In March, Emily texted me. They're selling the house, moving to a smaller place in Kentucky where it's cheaper. Dad's taking a job in Louisville. I told them I want to finish high school here and stay with a friend. Really, I want to stay with you. Can I? I called Gerald Patterson immediately. He helped me file for temporary guardianship, which Emily's parents would have to approve. Given their financial situation and the fact that they were moving out of state, they agreed. Jessica tried to bargain, asking for monthly payments for Emily's care. She's my granddaughter, I told her. I'll provide for her because I love her, not because you demand it. Emily moved in with me in April. She had her own room, decorated however she wanted. We enrolled her in a good school in Columbus. She joined the volleyball team. She blossomed, and I continued to thrive. Teresa and I became genuine friends. She introduced me to her book club, to her sister who was also widowed, to a whole community of women who were smart and independent and kind. I took a property management course online. I bought a second small rental property, a duplex near the Ohio State campus. I learned about investments, about financial planning, about building wealth. By the time Emily graduated high school 2 years later, my portfolio was worth over $3 million. I'd put money aside for her college fund, enough for all 4 years at any school she wanted, plus graduate school if she chose. She got into Ohio State, majoring in business. She wanted to learn property management from me, to eventually take over the buildings. She wanted to build something together. Michael reached out occasionally, always asking for money, always claiming emergency. I never responded. Jessica sent angry emails calling me selfish, spiteful, a terrible grandmother for not helping them in their time of need. I blocked them both. Linda visited often, proud of how I'd rebuilt. Robert would be so happy, she'd say. You're finally living for yourself. Last month, on what would have been Robert's and my 50th wedding anniversary, I visited his grave. I brought flowers, sat on the grass, and talked to him like I used to. You saved me, I said. Even after you were gone, You saved me. I wish you were here to see what I've built. I wish you could see Emily thriving. I wish you could see that I'm happy." The wind rustled through the trees, and I like to think it was him telling me he knew. I'm 71 now. Emily is 19, brilliant and strong. She knows her worth because I made sure to teach her what I learned too late, that you don't owe anyone your dignity, your security, or your peace, not even family, especially not family who treats you like you're disposable. My rental properties are doing well. I have a good life. I have friends. I have purpose. And I have the satisfaction of knowing that when Michael and Jessica kicked me out with that canvas bag, thinking they were throwing away trash, they were actually handing me my freedom. Jessica wanted that basement room for her yoga studio. I wonder if she finds peace there. I wonder if she ever thinks about the woman she discarded, the woman who is now wealthier and happier than Jessica will ever be. I doubt it. People like that don't reflect. But I do. And what I've learned is this. The people who love you will protect you, even from beyond the grave. The people who don't will reveal themselves when it's convenient. And the biggest mistake you can make is confusing the two. Robert knew. Emily knew. I know now. And that knowledge, more than any amount of money, is what finally set me free.